Did you know that's a yoga move?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I do it with my YouTube yoga teacher. It warms up your face in the morning. Do it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective podcast. My name is Karbon.
My name is Emmy. Emmy is cute.
And welcome to the show.
So today we are going to be talking about two things.
What are we talking about?
We're going to be talking about the irresponsible use of pyrotechnics.
Thank God.
And a harmful, relatively new tradition.
New?
Yeah.
What is it?
Gender reveal parties, silly.
Is that new?
I feel like it's relatively new because the person who invented them is still alive, because I heard that she is not happy with the way that it's gone.
Oh, geez. Well, what was her initial intention? I'm curious.
I think just to bake a cake, cut into it, and be surprised. First, we're going to talk about all of these idiotic cases of gender reveal parties absolutely gone wrong and why it's a horrible tradition that should not exist.
And we'll tell you why.
We are about to jump into it, but at the end, we're going to talk about Karbon and I potentially choosing to raise children, potentially not, but how we would do it. So if you want to find out if there would be a mini junior Karbon.
If. You gotta watch the full podcast / listen to the full podcast to find out.
So I think we all know the most recent one, which was really fucked up, and there's been a lot of memes about it, but there's a couple who used pyrotechnics in California to see if their baby was gonna be doing touchdowns or wearing a tutu.
Oh my God. I absolutely hate everything about it. I know that no matter what, it's highly likely that at least for some time, there's going to be people that do gender reveal parties, or shall we say sex reveal parties.
Yeah.
And, as much as we can educate and kind of go against the idea and, tell people why it's a bad idea, I feel like there's still going to be some people that do it. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to do it, at the very very least, don't set off bombs. Why not just cut the cake?
Yeah, just cut the fucking cake.
Just cut the cake. If you're
going to be an asshole and you have to do this, just cut a cake.
There's no need for that.
But there's two cases I was jumping into. So the most recent one was one in California where these people decided to use a bomb. Well, everything around them was very, very dry. It's the middle of wildfire season in California, and they decided to set off a bomb, and they started a wildfire.
It's the worst
that,
idea
like you said,
ever.
has probably killed many animals, has burnt down.
Yeah, considering how many acres. Yeah, when it first started, the update was 10,000 acres of land, which is still a lot, by the way. And then now they're saying way, way more than that. I can't remember the exact number. Might put it up there. And you're not just cutting down trees and bushes and ultimately depleting oxygen with your fire. You're also burning down already homes of these animals. You're burning down the lives of these animals. And if I seem like a super crazy animal activist, whatever, I'm to the point where I just don't care what people think, because I it's so wrong, and it makes me so angry as well, the fact that people are willing to do it. And then also that's lives that you're taking. And if it's humans, you're in jail for life. But because it's an animal, there's no repercussions. And
honestly, I hope there's repercussions for these people.
I hope that there's criminal charges, because they burnt down land. They've had to have people evacuate. They've killed who knows how many animals.
Yeah, and they've used up city resources and firefighters and everything when there's plenty of other fires happening too.
It's fire season in California.
There's many
already
ways.
Bad.
There's many ways that they can be charged, and they should be charged.
Absolutely.
Sure. So there's that. Most recently, that shit went viral. Everyone knows about that. But I think it was last year, a family in Iowa decided that they were also going to make their own bomb.
Oh, their own bomb.
Yeah, it was like a homemade one that they made. And I'm sure these people made one as well. Like, does someone sell these gender reveal bombs? Like, what the fuck? Can you go buy it at Walmart?
Attention all Walmart shoppers. This is your assistant manager, Brenda, here to remind you all that our gender reveal bombs are on rollback today for $5. That's right, shoppers. So take yourself down to aisle 3 to pick those up and get ready to uphold those gender norms, even if it kills you.
I feel like this is something that Walmart in the States would sell. Gender reveal bombs.
There's so much wrong with that.
Let's sell it for your baby's penis. So for the family in Iowa who made their own bomb, they ended up killing their grandma.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because it went off wrong and it hit the grandmother and killed her.
Like shrapnel. Huh? Or the whole bomb. Or shrapnel of the bomb.
What is a shrapnel?
You don't know what shrapnel is? Shrapnel is when pieces of something that's intact come apart and fly through the air.
I don't know. All I know is that she's dead.
Look it up.
How do you know that?
Because I'm smart.
Actually, how do you know that?
I've always known that. I can't remember not knowing that.
Really?
Yes.
You came out of the womb knowing that. Yeah. That is really
Those are my first words. Came out of the womb. First words is shrapnel.
And then I don't know where in the States this last one happened, but there was also a plane crash.
That would cause shrapnel to fly.
A plane. So if I smash this glass, would all of the glass that would discard it, is that shrapnel?
Hold on. Thinks of definition of shrapnel. What it applies to. Yes. Definitely metal. Metal, 100%. Is considered shrapnel when it's broken apart and flying through the air in some form of crash or bomb.
Did you learn that in like engineering school or something?
I just know shrapnel, okay? I'm like confused as to how you don't know shrapnel. If you know shrapnel, leave a like.
No one likes the video. People purposely don't like the video.
Don't know shrapnel. Actually, thumbs down.
Yeah, no, please don't. But the reason that I hate it is it's just like scientifically incorrect. Like the idea that your baby would come out of the womb either male or female is just wrong. Like,
do explain.
Yeah, like you can be assigned male at birth and be a woman. You can be assigned female at birth and you can be a man, and you can be assigned either of those genders and be non-binary or gender non-conforming. And intersex people also exist. You can have neither XX or XY chromosome. Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. You can have neither of those chromosomes and you're intersex. But the reason that we don't normally hear about intersex people is because of how fucked up the history of how the medical practices have treated intersex people. I would like to put up the percentage of our population that is actually born intersex if I can find that, because it's a lot more than you would think. The only reason we don't really hear about this is because of how medical practitioners are trained to treat these situations. You're trained to counsel the parents to have your baby have a gender reassignment surgery. So they'll basically tell parents like, your child is going to get bullied, until they convince the parents to just decide what gender to put on this baby or what sex to put on this baby, and they'll do the surgery at birth. But this is even more absurd to me because I feel like it's probably the same people who are deciding that this is the path forward medically for intersex people are probably also the same people who think if your child says that they're transgender, like they can't make up their mind to take hormones. They can't make up their mind to have reassignment surgery until like they're old enough to make that decision. You know what I mean? But it's like you just did that to a baby without knowing how they feel. Yeah. Like, what do you?
Well, I feel like that in itself is a very, very tricky question because if I'm being 100% honest, I don't know when it's considered medically safe to go on hormones.
Like, I think it's like when you're at puberty.
When you're at puberty.
Like before you hit puberty I think is the best time to get on them, because if you go through puberty, then it's harder to reverse it, is what I believe, I think. But the problem there is a lot of people claim that like they don't want their kids to make like a rash decision or something. Like, we're obviously not experts in that area, but my whole point is just like people are claiming that you can't make that decision for a child, and yet they're doing that when there's no medical reason that you need to be doing that, because intersex people are perfectly healthy. We're just doing that to conform to the gender binary.
Yeah, this is true. And also, like, man, like the blue smoke bombs and the pink smoke bombs, I hate that even more. Even just like not only are you now assigned a gender, you're also assigned a color.
Yeah, and then all the bullshit that comes along with that, with like the toy aisles and like feeling like you need to conform to a certain
you get
thing.
Barbie dolls, and then if you're a girl, and the guy gets like military objects and like Nerf guns, and
now because of this, all of these stupid gender norms are starting even before your baby is born. I think the reason why I've always hated these is because in my family, there's a lot of really like progressive, great people who have raised really great children, and they've done so in like a non-gender conforming way. Like, one of my little boy cousins always comes with pink sparkly nails, and it's super cute. And
that is really good.
Yeah, and like that's what I love to see. And then when these like gender reveal parties started happening, I was like I had so much hope.
And I feel like maybe your family gave you a picture of what you thought everybody else's family was like, and then turns out that it's not like that.
And I think when you live in the city as well, like you get this really idealistic view of what you think society looks like, because you're not really seeing everywhere else, and everywhere definitely is not as progressive as Toronto is or other larger cities. So I think that's definitely something to keep in mind, and it's always important to be looking outside of your bubble.
Yeah,
and even being aware of what's going on.
Even for us, like, it's important to be looking outside of our bubble, which is why I think it's great when we talk with people who don't have the same experiences as us, which is, I mean, if you look around you, it's literally everybody.
Yeah, and I just think more so as the world starts to get radicalized, it's really important to not just push away opinions that don't align with yours. I think it's important to hear what is going on in different areas outside of your bubble, because even just looking at like the Queer Collective newsfeed, because I really love following everyone back, because it allows me to see like what's going on in the community. But looking down our newsfeed, everyone on our page is obviously very queer positive, like activists, etc. So it makes me feel really great about the world. Right. You know what I mean? Right. But I think it's really important for me to be like constantly listening to the news and listening to all these voices, because it keeps you motivated to be pushing for what you believe in, because you realize that there's still so many reasons to be doing that. And there's still so many reasons for us to be smashing the gender binary.
And I think it's also important to mention that like smashing that patriarchy and smashing the gender norms is not a way for like us to say, okay, well, now your child can be male or female. They can't be a girl or a guy. It has to be more complex than that. And it absolutely doesn't. But the thing that's important to mention and that's important to keep in mind is that it should be their choice.
1000%. And it shouldn't be ever pushed on someone. You know what I mean? Like, take your kid down the fucking toy aisle and let them choose whatever the F they want. And like, on your point, like, me growing up and me like now, I guess, in terms of gender, like I fit into the gender binary, and it might be confusing for some people who know me why I hate it so much and why I'm like advocating against it so much, and because it's like it's harmful to a lot of people. And I think in many ways it's been harmful to myself, and it's been harmful for how I've portrayed myself and how I've been able to visualize my future. And just because I really loved playing with Bratz dolls doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. How do you think that it was harmful to yourself?
So I think it made me feel like I needed to dumb myself down to like be appealing to boys. it made me feel like I needed to dress a specific way, especially as I was like starting to go through puberty. Like I really just felt like my existence wasn't for me in like my future and my career. It was like I was supposed to fit in this box and with these gender roles.
For me, I never connected with any girl characters in like cartoons.
Yeah.
I never did. Like
Spinelli.
Well, Spinelli I connected with more for sure.
Yeah.
But if I'm being 100% honest, I always wanted to be TJ.
Yeah. How do you feel like the gender binary impacted you?
When I look back on it, I would say it confused me. When I was in it, you didn't know that you were confused.
No.
Right? So I was just like, just kind of going along with it. But for example, when it came to playing with Barbies, I always wanted to be Ken. And I didn't know why. And I had no idea why. Like, I was just like, I don't know. He's like, he looks cool. His hair is kind of nice. Like, I want to be that guy. And I always thought that I was just like, just making a game. And I didn't know why, like, Barbie in particular didn't appeal to me. And yeah, she just never did. I never felt like I was her.
You're so cute. Give me a hug. You Ken doll, come here. Come here. You're so cute. That's really cute. You always wanted to be Ken. My next sort of question, more like philosophical. I don't know if it's philosophical. I've taken one philosophy course. My next question is just, do you think children, young adults today, should they feel upset with their parents for raising them within this gender binary?
That is a big question.
If maybe they had expressed it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to be playing with this.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to kind of navigate around. But here's what I'll say. And this is all just my opinion. You know, everybody has theirs. But it is my opinion and my belief. And this goes towards like the way that I decide to look at life. Which is that the past can't be rewritten. You can't go back and, you know, change what has happened. First of all, your parents don't know what they don't know. And what I mean by that is they will raise you based on what they know, based on what they've experienced, which, let's be honest, how many parents, when they're trying to raise a child, know how to raise a child?
Zero.
Like it's always trial and error and doing your best and loving them as much as you can.
In most cases.
Yeah, in most cases. Some people, unfortunately, don't get that. I'm trying to think of like a well-intended parent, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know if that's the right thing to say.
In the case you're thinking of is like the parent in the past.
The parent in the past has the best intentions and loves you. And they didn't know. They didn't know that that would make you angry. They didn't know that that would make you upset, or that you would feel that it's wrong, or that it was wrong if it is. And they just tried their best. So I personally don't see a point in getting angry with them over something that's in the past. My approach to that would be to sit down and actually have a conversation with them and say, well, this is what you did in the past. How do you feel about that? Okay, this is how I feel about that. Okay, now how can we move forward? Because if you get mad at someone for something that they did in the past, like, that's your right. You can get mad at them, but at the same time, what's that going to change? All of that resentment, all of that hate, all of those negative emotions that you're holding, it's only hurting you.
Yeah, completely. One thing that I kind of want to say is, if a family member is toxic to you, if they don't make you feel good, if you've tried to come out to them and they don't respect you, then you have no obligation to forgive them or to spend time with them. If, say, they're like misgendering you, if they're just like don't respect who you are, then you don't have to be near them. You know what I mean? It's not your obligation just because they're related to you. That isn't your obligation. People who love you should respect you. But I think in either case, whether you want to be around them or whether you don't, I think, like you said, what you said is a really good point, that when you hold resentment, when you hold grudges, when you hold all of this negativity, the only person that you're impacting is yourself. So you might as well move forward with your life, release it. There's no reason. Well, there's many fucking reasons for you to feel that way, but it's going to make you and your life feel way better if you brush it off and chuck it into the bucket.
Because when you hold that stuff, nobody else feels it. It's just you. And it's affecting you. It's affecting your happiness. It's affecting your mental health. It's affecting your future. It's affecting how you do everything. And that kind of stuff doesn't do you any favors. So I choose to always practice forgiveness, always practice self-love, practice dealing with things instead of suppressing them, and seeing how I can move forward. This kind of stuff is heavy stuff too. Like, it's not easy. It's easy to say it. But it's very, very difficult to deal with. With that said, and how difficult it is, I do encourage you to practice it, whether it's you write out all of your negative feelings in a journal, and then from after you've literally gotten them out and written them on the page, and then now you turn the page and you start to write maybe neutral feelings. And then you turn the page and you start to write slightly positive feelings until you get to the point where you are writing positive things. And then maybe, you know, some days are better than others. So maybe you start out by writing the negative things. And then, you know what, like throughout the course of you writing it, you start to list out, well, you know what, also, I'm really grateful for this. And this is something that's positive in my life. And this is how I can make this negative thing better, because you are in control of a lot of things. And the number one thing that you're in control of is your emotions. And I know sometimes it doesn't feel like it. I have certainly felt super out of control. Many, many, many times in my life. Out of control when it comes to the direction of my life, my emotions, how happy I am. That has felt super out of control. My future, my career, everything. And I'm sure many of you have as well. Personally, something that I practice now is journaling. Not journaling the negative emotions, getting them out, journaling the positive emotions and making those a manifestation in my life. And there's many, many different ways that you can go about doing something like that. There's things like meditation. There's things that like running. I don't really run, but I hear
that's not a positive thing for me.
Listen, for some people it is.
Take that off everyone's list.
No, don't
take it off your list.
If it works for you, then do it. All right.
These legs weren't built for running, so that's not what they'll do.
No, it's not for some people.
It's not for you.
Oh my God. No, if it's for you, then do it.
But I think what you said in the beginning was really great advice about maybe writing down your negative emotions and slowly getting more positive, because I've been in positions where someone's told me like, well, just tell me like one positive thing about yourself. And I sat there and I couldn't, you know, and when you're in that such a negative headspace and you think you're the shittiest person in the world, sometimes it can be really, really challenging to think of some positive things, even though people around you may be able to think of 500 positive things that are in your life.
There's been plenty of times where I've felt so low and down and just terrible about myself. And I could not list a single positive thing about me. And then you come in and you're like, you know what? Here's like a list of 100 things that are great about you. And then that
I just keep it in my back pocket just in case I read it to her. Just kidding, it's up here.
That has helped as well. And but you don't need someone to tell you that, because deep down you do know that. And I would encourage you to explore it if you're feeling something similar to that, where it comes to like you hold negativity and you hold resentment, because you deserve it. Yeah. You 100% deserve it. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel positive. You deserve to feel happy.
Yeah. And I'm that person of support for you, where I remind you of all the wonderful things in your life.
Thank you.
And if you, someone who's watching this, doesn't have that, I can be that person for you too. You can just message us on the Queer Collective Instagram. I always respond to all of our DMs.
Yes.
And
keep in mind that this is a community.
Yeah. When I say it's a cyber safe space, it is for everyone. And I want everyone to feel good. Yeah. I will lurk through your Instagram and I will tell you a bunch of things that I like about you and that you should like about yourself as well.
Yeah. And we're often silly on this podcast, which we love and enjoy. And sometimes we just need to say some things that we really feel, and this is one of those days.
Yeah. And I think just seeing about the gender reveal party in the news, like I had a lot of feelings towards it that I wanted to talk about, and that's why I wanted to hit on this today. And I kind of want to pull our conversation back to that initial question that I was asking about if kids today, I guess, should be upset with their parents. And I think what you said about it is true. I think our generation and generations before us, I think their parents were raised in a different setting where the gender binary, the patriarchy, this nuclear family, those ideals were so heavily ingrained in people's minds that the things that are more normal to us today weren't normal to them. But another question that I wanted to jump off of that was, do you think kids of the future should feel a certain way towards their parents when this information is now readily available?
Kids of the future?
And this is, again, just like a philosophical question that I just kind of wanted to like banter about.
It's a good
it's
question,
something I've been like sort of mulling over in my head weirdly. Like,
yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. And I think that the easy answer would be like, just get with the program. That would be the easy answer. But I feel like it's more complex than that. And the reality is that people catch on at different rates.
Yeah.
And, some people never catch on and they resist it. And I think that as people, or I guess not everybody, but some people, especially as they grow older, they resist change more and more. So it's probably something that's just scary to them. It's the unknown. If they weren't raised with that and they don't know it, then it's probably like a little bit scary for them. Not that it should be, but you can't really change that in regards to how they initially feel. And all you can do is try to educate and love.
Yeah, and I think it's the responsibility of all of us within the community and our allies to be educating all of your family members, your friends' family members, people in your workspace even. I think introducing yourself with your pronouns is a really important way to be an ally and be breaking down these walls of just assuming people's genders and assuming that there's two genders. I think that's really important work for us all to be doing. And I think when we hear someone saying things that are harmful, addressing it. And don't be afraid of these conversations. They're not a negative conversation to have. I don't feel any particular way about having these conversations. You know what I mean? Like there are preconceived notions of even using the word they because it's already a pre-existing word. And that was a conversation recently that we had with one of our friends' parents. And it was a nice conversation. You know what I mean? They were open to hearing what we had to say.
Totally. And this was coming from someone who didn't know about it necessarily.
No,
or didn't start out by agreeing. And then after, throughout the conversation, we understood each other better.
100%. And I've had these conversations with my own parents. And I think they're nice conversations to have because I think it's something really special to be educating your parents and to be educating your elders on things. And like you said, I think the older you get, sometimes you're less welcoming to change. But I think it's still important to be doing, you know what I mean, to be pushing back against that, because for these structures to be changing, we need everyone to be a part of it.
You know, as parents, they teach you a lot.
Yeah.
So when you gain new information and new skills, like, why not teach them something?
Yeah. And I think one day the next generation, our kids are going to be teaching us some shit.
Yeah. Kids will be teaching us one day. So right now we can be like all up on our high horse and be like, you know what? Mom, Dad,
get woke.
Yeah, I know some stuff and I'm here to get you woke. But like later on, it's going to be us that needs to get woke.
Who knows? Who knows? Stay on your toes.
This kind of like nicely brings up the question that we were holding on to, which is, do you want to have kids?
At the moment, no. And it's not because I don't feel maternal, because I do. I really love taking care of people. I love cooking for people. I love like creating safe spaces for people. And I would love to do that for kids. But I feel really uncomfortable bringing a child into this world because of how much anxiety I hold about the uncertainty of our own futures. And I just feel very out of control a lot of the time. And I don't necessarily want to bring a child into that, but I do feel a certain amount of like conflicting emotions, because if it's just like climate deniers and shitty people who are going to continue to reproduce and good people aren't reproducing, then what does that mean for our future?
Well, there's also, it's more complex than just good and bad too. Like good people versus bad people. I don't think that
I know, but I think a lot of the way that you're raised does have to do with some of the beliefs that you hold.
And that your family holds.
Yeah, the way that you're raised. So the beliefs that your family hold, I think a lot of that is passed down to you, unless you have a strong enough desire to go seek information out on your own, or say you experience things that allow you to recognize that maybe these beliefs aren't necessarily true.
I mean, that does happen.
It does happen 1000%, but I think a lot of the time, a lot of your beliefs do have to do with how you're raised.
I agree with that. I also currently don't want to have children, and a huge part of that is because of the state of the world as it is and what that might mean for the future. I would feel insane and out of control to bring a child onto a world that's just eating itself alive. Like it goes deep, you know, it goes into politics, it goes into like the state of the earth, like the environment. More people get born and then more trees die. It's just like this like super unbalanced thing.
Yeah. And honestly, I think I debate myself a lot in my head about it too, because it's youth that are leading the fight on climate change.
Right.
So it is kids, young adults, teenagers who are doing this work. So it's the world's youth that is making the change, you know? Yeah, so that's
true.
One thing in my head that I go back and forth on is I do believe that it's the youth that are going to make these changes. I think it's our generation and younger generation who are going to have to take the responsibility to change the world in a very meaningful and serious way, because there are a lot of powerful humans who are possessed by greed, I think.
You know, something that I might be interested in down the road, instead of birthing a child, might be to just give a child an opportunity.
So like you'd like to be like potentially a mentor, a big sister, a foster home, foster parent, an adoptive parent, maybe one or all of the above of those things is what you'd like to be.
I don't know exactly, which is why it sounds weird.
Yeah.
I just know that like no matter what, there's like children that are in the foster care system that deserve better, and I want to help in some way. I don't know what that means yet. I can't give you straight answers because I'm not there yet. And
it's okay.
But just help the youth somehow. Same thing with dogs.
Yeah, I think I just want a lot of dogs.
Get the dogs. But I want to get foster dogs too.
Yeah.
Bring them in like my children. And I say, hello, dogs.
Got the keys to the car, everybody jumping.
The dogs say, woof. And then I say, listen, I know we just met, but I promise you're going to live out the rest of your life fulfilling your purpose, which is to woof and to have plenty of nature time and love. And the dog will be like, woof.
So to sort of like wrap this whole topic up, because I feel like we did ramble a little bit. I hope you guys got something out of this podcast. But moral of the story is that there's a lot more work to do. I don't think that just dismantling gender reveal parties is going to fix what's going on, because gender reveal parties are part of a much larger system. They're part of the gender binary. And I think what matters more is what parents do after their child is born and what communities do after their child is born. Yeah, so it matters what communities, what parents do after their child is born matters a great deal. I think that we need to teach children that trans people, non-binary people, intersex people, they all exist. Teach them about this. Teach them about this in sex ed class. Teach them about this at home. Talk about it normally. Put it in pop culture. You know what I mean? Put it in so many different places that it's normal. Teach them that this is what the world looks like, because it is what the world looks like. And that is a really important thing to do. Teach them that they can wear whatever the F they want from whatever section of the store it's from. Which is also really annoying that there's like two different fucking sections.
Which is going back to it being part of a much bigger system.
Yes, exactly. So it's part of this much bigger system. Teach them that they can be part of whatever activities they want. Like there's so much there, and the world doesn't need to include all of these limitations. I think at the end of the day, it's really easy for all parents to fuck shit up. That's another reason why I don't want to be a parent. Like no matter what you do, you're going to fuck it up. But as long as you accept and love your child for who they are, that is the most important thing that you can do, in my opinion. So raising kids with healthy attitudes about gender and gender identities has a lot more to do with how you behave as a parent, how you love them and accept them, and how you allow them to be whoever they want and play with whatever they want and express themselves in however they want, than you deciding whether or not to have a gender reveal party. So I think that's really important. Just remembering that gender reveal parties are part of a much larger system, and they're something that also needs to be dismantled. Whatever you do, just please don't burn down a forest. Or crash a plane or kill grandma.
God. Give a damn about more than just you. I feel like it is a very selfish thing to do something like that. Have a bomb just for the assigned gender of your child in the middle of fire season in a very dry area, and to not care about anybody else, like no other people, not the environment, not the animals. So, in my opinion, that's a criminal charge, but we'll have to see what happens. Knowing the states, it probably won't be, but it should be. Continue to raise awareness and fight against everything that was just mentioned. It's a systemic issue. It's a selfish issue. It's so many different things, and it's an environmental issue.
And I have one recommendation too, if you're interested in learning more facts about environmental issues, specifically as they pertain to Canada. I would definitely recommend going and listening to the Green Majority Radio. It's a podcast. You can find it on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, or Apple Podcast. They provide a lot of facts and some good dry humor and just really good information. I find it's really challenging to find information about environmentalism in Canada because a lot of our news and our media is centered around the US. So this is really great. It's a good way to sort of like stay woke. in an easy and consumable way. So I would recommend that.
Well, as always, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. If you like the podcast and you're on YouTube, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really, really helps the channel out. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever you listen to, make sure to subscribe. And if you really want to help us out, if you could leave us a 5-star review, that would really help. But with that said, thank you so much for watching/listening, and we will see you next week.
Peace.